Well, let me take you back to 2004. I was working in central London. I was working for a very small expedition charity called British Exploring, based at the Royal Geographical Society. And it was just a normal day in the office. Nothing unusual was expected to happen. But my colleague Felicity came into the office with an advertisement for a race called the Polar Challenge. Now, this grabbed my attention. I thought, I'd love to do something like that, but there's no way that I'm capable of doing this kind of thing. So we were very clear on our goal. At least we thought we were. It was to become the first all-female team to complete the Polar Challenge. But it was Justin who, yes, was involved in our fitness training, but who was also acting as an external facilitator to the team of 3 of us to focus in on the clarity of our goal and our ambition. Because actually, this wasn't enough. This wasn't specific enough. He quizzed us. We sat down in his office one day, and he said, "What do you each want to achieve?" Sam sat there and she said, "Well, I think that we can win the race." I nearly fell off my chair at this point in time. I'm thinking, Sam, we've never done anything like this before. Do you seriously think we can win it? Felicity, who had previously worked for the British Antarctic Survey in Antarctica, said, well, you know, I see my career as being in this world. I want to put up a really good performance, a respectable one that will be admired and hopefully lead to other things. And there's me, who at this point in time couldn't even ski, sitting there saying, well, if we could just get to the finish line with all our fingers and all our toes, then I'll be the happiest girl alive. Justin quickly recognised that we could not stand on the start line with these differences of opinion. We needed to have a common goal, and this wasn't enough. So it was about interrogating what we each wanted to achieve, finding the deeper reasons for that, but also seeing how we fared against our competition. Having an eye on competition is, of course, incredibly important, even though you need to also be focused on your own work. And so through those discussions, we were then able to be far more specific, and our aim then became to finish the race in the top half of all of the teams taking part in 2005. And there were 16 in total. There was no expectation. On paper, we were never going to be the fastest, the fittest, or the strongest team. And I really love being in that position. It felt like there wasn't any pressure. So the gun went, all the teams lined up on the start line. And you've got to have a plan. In any race, in any project, you've got to have a plan. It was worked out based on our prior performance. We wanted to ski 20 nautical miles a day. That was quite a challenge in itself. And we really needed to maximise our speed across the surface of the ice, minimise the time wasted by faffing around with kit or by having unnecessary conversations. But how do you do that when the wind is blowing, it's incredibly noisy, it's difficult to shout to one another, you're skiing in single file, the person in the front is navigating as part of the team. So we developed a series of hand signals, and I really fit this into the category of situational communication. How often do we consider what form of communication we're using with someone and whether it's the most efficient and effective method? You know, we automatically either reach for the phone or for email, whereas there could be a better option for influencing people, getting our message across, updating people. So for us, to avoid having to stop, cross our skis, maybe get our pulks and our sledges all tangled up, we just had this communication system which meant that we stuck our ski poles out to the side, and that asked the question, how are you doing back there? And if people stuck their ski poles out to the side, that meant, great, thanks very much, keep going as we are. If somebody stuck their ski pole high up in the air, that meant, hey, we've got some more energy back here, let's go a bit faster. But if somebody stuck it down to the ground, that meant, I'm flagging. You know, I can carry on until the next allocated break, but can we just slow the pace? Thereby, we could make sure that we were progressing all the time and not wasting any time. Because this was a race. we needed to be competitive. We owed it to our sponsors to give them a return on their investment. And we'd exhausted all of the games that you might play to keep a fatigued team going in the extremes. You know, these are the kind of things that you might play if you're in a car with some young children and they're saying, you know, oh, we're nearly there yet, and you play all the alphabet games and so on. We'd exhausted all of that. We were now skiing side by side just so we could talk to each other and so that we wouldn't fall asleep on our skis. So the one game that we did come up with that really proved to be effective was to quite simply go through the names of all of the other members, of all of the other teams that we were racing against, and in turn take turns to categorise those individuals as to whether we might snog them, marry them, or avoid them. And that proved to be the thing that kept us going, together with some incredibly cheesy music. Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say this was one of my most played tracks on my MP3 player. But it was worth it. Because having chatted for those final 37 hours of the race, in which time we stopped just for an hour to melt some water so we could have something to drink, the 3 pink lady polecats made it to the finish line, and we finished the race in 6th position.